Yes, I finally get to try out the Nintendo Switch. Let's see what else comes in the box. Oh, I have so many questions. Hey everyone, it's Game Tim with another Q&A session. I mentioned in my pasta video back in June taking questions from you guys and answering them for some sort of milestone. You guys sent me really great questions though, so instead of finding some excuse to celebrate, I wanted to answer them today. I also wanted to make chili. This isn't just a happy coincidence. I think it would be really cool to share my favorite award-winning chili recipe. Okay, so by award-winning I mean a gift card from a company chili cook-off, but it's still pretty special to me. This is where I normally talk a little bit more about the food, but chili can be pretty vague, and depending on where you live or who you ask, it could include a number of ingredients. A lot of North American chili can be described as a spicy stew containing chili peppers, meat, and often tomatoes and beans. Some purists won't count dishes with beans, and others claim real chili has to stew for close to a day. So I'm going to give you a pretty simple interpretation of this classic. If you want to follow along, you'll need tomato sauce, whole peeled plum tomatoes, kidney beans, typically the beans you find in chili are dark, but you could use either variety, 2 or 2.5 pounds of ground meat. I'm using beef, but this chili is just as great with turkey. Chili powder, salt, pepper, a white onion, and optionally cayenne pepper or even red pepper flakes if you prefer more heat. This recipe is great for any weather. It doesn't need to be chilly outside. And if you take it to a cookout, it might be a great way to meet people. Remember sun protection eating outside though. I'm pasty, and I don't find being plumb out of sunscreen appealing. I honestly continue to hope bad puns won't be grounds for anyone to start a beef with me, but if you stuck with me this far, let's get into the recipe and questions. Let's start out by slicing the onion and taking a look at the first question. How often do I have to worry about the camera lens getting foggy from steam? This is actually interesting since it's something that I struggled with early on. I started out with virtually zero camera experience in my first 2 videos. I used to mount my camera above whatever I was cooking, so steam and smoke would end up being super obtrusive. Since then I've bought a tripod to keep the lens away enough from cooking food, and it hasn't been a worry. Now let's mash the whole peeled tomatoes. We'll need these in a little bit, but preparing them now will get this step out of the way when I actually start mixing the chili. I ended up with a few questions about pets from Instagram and Snapchat. You guys asked if I had any pets or if I had any as a kid. I don't right now, but I love animals. It'd be great to have a dog one day when I live somewhere with less restrictive pet rules. I did have a beagle named Mandy when I was 8 or 9. It's a great age for a pet, but a terrible one for sole responsibility of it. We ended up giving her to a family friend who is way more capable of taking care of her. Next, using a bit of oil, we want to brown the ground beef. Ultimately, we're going to have this stew overheat for a while, but I still like to make sure the meat is almost entirely, if not completely cooked before moving on. You can definitely use a pan for this. I just find it easier to use the same pot throughout. So the next question is, why did I start YouTube? I touched on this a little bit in my first Q&A, so I'll throw a link to that somewhere for the long answer. Basically though, I just watch a lot of YouTube, and I thought it'd be really cool to contribute something, but never had the motivation to start. When a friend of mine started his own gaming channel, I realized it was way more accessible than I thought. So a definite shout out to Chad over at Chadarak for the inspiration. If you like a good Let's Play, I'd totally recommend checking out his channel. Once the beef is no longer pink, let's drain the rendered fat. We'll continue to cook the beef with the sliced onions and a teaspoon of salt. I really love favorites questions. Luckily I got a bunch of fun ones from you guys, so I'll answer them together. What's your favorite mode of transport? I've genuinely never thought about it, but I'd probably go with car. When you're driving, you get to pick your own pacing, sing obnoxiously loud, and road trips are pretty fun. What's your favorite color? It's blue. What's your favorite pun you've ever made? My favorite puns are steak puns because they're a rare medium well done. So that's not the most original, but it always makes me really happy when I get an opportunity to use it in context. What's your favorite food? I have a huge weakness for Tex-Mex, so definitely burritos. There's this taqueria down the street from me that does the best chicken mole burrito, and I always get it for lunch when I want to treat myself. What's your favorite recipe you've done for the channel? Hands down, Cooking Mama's tempura. I love shrimp and I was genuinely surprised by how well they turned out. What are your favorite and worst recipes you've ever done in general? Favorite is really hard. I always end up with a ton of compliments whenever I make Emerald's recipe for turkey meatballs in mint yogurt sauce, so probably that. Least favorite, I'd say, is the Salisbury steak I made for the first Cooking with Cooking Mama. It was bland and very crispy. I really want to try that one again one day. Add the mashed tomatoes and tomato sauce to the beef and onions. So this next question comes up in the comments sometimes, and I usually just kind of sidestep it. Are you single? I am. My friends always joke that I should sneak a link to my dating profile in the channel somewhere. Next, mix in the chili powder, salt, and pepper. I think of these as the base spices for this chili. I'm going to add cayenne pepper for heat, but you can use your favorite spice or hot sauce at this point to bring the flavor to a preferable place. The next question is, what would you classify your channel as? A food channel or a gaming channel? This is kind of a cop-out answer, but I'd have to say food and gaming. It's really hard to pick a single one. I involve food in a majority of my videos, but I wouldn't have made the channel without Cooking Mama. So I can't choose one since I'm either a terrible gaming channel or a very confusing cooking show. Now drain the kidney beans and combine them into the pot. In the same vein of cooking questions, a bunch of you have asked about my experience in the kitchen outside of YouTube. I actually really love cooking. I think it can be pretty relaxing and especially rewarding when you make something new for the first time. It goes without saying that I'm not the most skilled cook. I don't have any training and I usually wing a lot of things, but typically I'm just making food for myself, so it's pretty low stakes. It's a hobby that I really enjoy. A few of my favorite recipes come from my grandma though, so I have to give her credit for helping me try to tackle recipes that I loved growing up. Taste the chili a final time to determine if you need to add any flavor, then simmer covered for 1 to 2 hours, stirring periodically. I mentioned that I switched jobs recently in my pasta sauce video, and a few of you were really interested in my background in engineering. I kind of wanted to wait until the end for these ones, so I had time to answer during the simmer. So the first few questions are, what college did you go to if you went to one? What type of engineer are you? And how did you choose your career? I went to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County for undergrad, a smallish state school. I'm a software engineer, and I didn't really know I wanted to move into software until late in college. I love the work that I do, which is primarily front end, but I didn't know I enjoyed developing user interface and working with user experience until my final college group project. It was a 3D puzzle game, but my focus was on creating the menus and 2D interface. A Facebook follower wrote, "I'm a mathematics CS major, and my question is, how was your experience in engineering? I've been seriously contemplating if I should go for it, but I don't know if I should. How did you survive? And what tips do you have for your audience?" I'm going to be really honest. I started at my university as a computer engineer, but graduated as a mathematics CS major myself, so I guess I didn't survive? But it wasn't for lack of trying or the program being any significantly harder, so I don't mean to be discouraging. I just found out that my passion for hardware fizzled out junior year. I did better in computer science because I cared about what I was learning. With that said, the first 2 years of engineering did have the same workload as the last 2 of mathematics and computer science. I think if you really enjoy the applied mathematics and are willing to have a few late nights, you should see if it's for you. Like with any intense STEM major, you'll probably need to group up with your entire class to tackle basic homework, but I wouldn't let a program intimidate you enough to not try. I guess my advice to future and current engineering students is, don't be afraid to ask for help. The common horror stories are usually caused by someone falling behind, which can be easy to do, but if you stay on top of things, I have no doubt you'll be able to get through it. Okay, so that last part got a little heavier than I anticipated. Let's see how the chili turned out. I hope you all enjoyed this video and learned a little bit more about me and what goes into my channel. I'll try to answer more questions in the comments over the next day or two if I didn't get to yours. And I know my uploads have been a little bit more spread out recently. Don't worry, my next video will be back to cooking with Cooking Mama. See ya!